Welcome to Norgon Volume 8. It's so exciting to think that you're up to Volume 8. I can't believe it.
Actually, I can't believe it either. It seems like I just designed Volume 1. This time I decided to take a theme of artistic women and what they would wear, something a little bit quirky. This is kind of my style anyway, to have it be normal, understandable, and then with some quirky twist to it. And I ended up naming everything after towns that are across the world, actually, they're not all in this country, that are artistic.
Right, that have artist colonies or residences or are known for having a similar...
Right, or sometimes just like they're just known that there are a lot of artists there.
Right, and so these are sort of, I feel like they're your usual fall silhouettes, but for summer, and you've kind of like summerfied your usual...
Yeah, maybe everybody should think of it as being year-round, but I really worked with the summer yarns.
Right. So you see in your palette and the yarns you chose, like in this first sweater, Schwan, is Barocco Lindsay, which is a new yarn for spring-summer this season. And you double-stranded it, right?
Yep. This one, because you'll see I used the same pattern stitch, the same chart later. I wanted the scales to be very different. And in this one, I wanted the scale to be very big. So doubling the yarn worked perfectly, and it also means that the sweater works up very quickly. It's a sweater that you leave like a huge neckline where you see the snowflake-like thing. You leave a huge neckline and have normal raglan sleeves and little lace and garter detail, and then you go in and pick up around this huge neckline and make the snowflake work from the outside in. And it's just the little triangular chart, but worked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. And then you have a missing wedge where your neck goes.
Excellent. Yeah, your patterns work up so quickly for this reason because you're kind of like zooming to get to the next fun bit and you're completing things as you go, which is so fun. Nespelum is a cardigan that's very trim and has some ribbing on the sleeve. And then tell us about this neck detail. It's like a dramatic cable.
Yeah, definitely this is the focal point. It's in 2-2 rib. It's where half of the collar cables over the other half. So you even work on 2 separate balls for a while and then, switch it over, do the cable, and then go back to one ball. And you do this, mirror it on either side, and makes this really dramatic neckline.
It's so feminine.
There are also a few other details, like the rib up the sleeve, and in the back there's rib across the waist, and then up the center back as well. So coming and going, you have a little bit of detail.
The next sweater is in a sandy color of Barocco Lindsay, and I absolutely love this one. I think this is going to be a huge favorite. It's called Knit-In, and it has this really amazing back. Tell us about how that is the front and the back and the collar all at once.
Well, maybe it starts out as a front. So the front itself is like a wide scarf. It does have a little bit of shaping off to the side and stockinette that you can't really see well in the picture, but mostly it's this big scarf pattern in a pretty little lace pattern that I maneuvered. I wouldn't say anything is like really new, but I put the pieces together a little differently. Yeah. And so that scarf, it starts on the bottom and then meets at the center back neck and ends up going clear across the shoulders. It depends. You can wear it sort of down over her shoulders, as you see in our back view, or hike it up so there's like more scarf around your neck. And then I decided, well, we need this pattern up the back too, because I don't want all my backs to be plain. Let's be pretty coming and going.
And I hate to suggest it, but we did try this on upside down, and it was kind of cool.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, we have to play around when they come in. So the back is grafted or 3-needle bind off?
I just sewed it. I mean, you could do either. I think it'd be really hard to get perfect
the lace
grafted.
To line up.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, so Pawtucket is something new that you had a lot of fun playing with. I know that you started this with the cowl, the free cowl pattern called Bug in a Rug. So you borrowed that from leather or leather weaving?
Yep, we have a book in the office on leather weaving. There is a technique in there where you cut into it, so it's making little like slices, like slits, different bars of it, and then you lace something else through it, and it really manipulates the leather to look very complicated.
Yeah, it's easy to do. We did a video where you're showing how to do this if you're unsure.
Oh yeah, don't worry about it being hard. So in this case, you're binding off and casting on, doing a few rows, doing that over and over again, and then you weave another piece of knitting in and out of it to make the fancy fronts.
Mm-hmm. It's so sculptural. In the back, you've just kind of done that, but not decorated it with that rope going in and out.
I wanted to echo the holes, the bind off in cast-ons, but not do the great big chunky thing, which I think would be really uncomfortable in the back and look a little strange.
Yeah, always thinking. This is also in the Lindsay, the soft linen cotton blend. I love this neck sweater. It's called Glasgow, and it's in pure Pima. And this is great for people. I have the sort of long torso where I need to really break up that line, and you've got it ending at the true waist almost, or a little bit below, and long sleeves. And tell us about the cable.
The cable is in ribbing, in like 2-4 ribbing. It's one of those cables that actually looks great on the other side, so if you wanted to use the inside as the outside, you could. Yeah, you cable like knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, over knit 2, purl 2, knit 2 to make this.
Ascona, it looks like the infinity cowl that we've shown a million times, but it's actually not, right? It's a little over 20 inches wide. It goes on and on. It's about 6 feet long, but at the end it narrows off to nothingness, so that one end is big and square and the other is pointed. So it's kind of a rhombus almost, or
I believe that is a rhombus of some sort. But the trick that I use is both the metallic yarn, the Lumina, and the pure Pima together. And at first it starts out 1 row of each, so you need a double pointed needle so you can slide it back to the end you need it at. And then I went to 2 rows of pure Pima and 1 of Lumina until I got to 3 and 1, and then the rest of the scarf is done that way. So in front you can see like all 3 of those textures and different amounts of metal showing. So it's just a little interest. And the pure Pima makes the Lumina so soft. Like Lumina can be a little scratchy against your skin, but the pure Pima protects it. So you just get that pretty shine.
I was amazed when you were knitting this one up that it just looks so interesting. It's sort of like ripples going outward, kind of changing as it goes along.
Yeah, it's one of those that maybe you could tell I knit it myself because that way I could make decisions as I went.
Design on the needles.
Yeah. So Peterborough is another cardigan with interest around the neck that wraps around the back neck, which seems to be one of my favorite things. And it's a cable that uses some increases and decreases and a little lace in it. The rest of the sweater, easy as pie to do, so you're just concentrating on the little front detail.
Right, and one of my favorite things for styling seems to be the belting, and you don't have to do that at all. You can leave it hanging. It looks gorgeous, left hanging open, sort of like the neck sweater Koskob. Koskob or Koskob? Yeah.
Koskob. It's in Connecticut.
Right, so this is left hanging open, and I really love this one. It has this great texture pattern all over. I think you've got sort of rectangular motifs going around, knit in different seed stitches, moss stitches, right?
Yep, there's kind of it looks almost like a plaid or a herringbone pattern in seed and moss that's placed all over the big rectangle. Behind the thinking story on this is rill, which is something that I did last summer. It's just like the sweater rill with a triangle added to the front, so that instead of like really pulling to the back and being more cutaway, this has more fabric in the front and ended up just being a bigger kind of a sweater. But otherwise, same shape, no seaming.
Right, and of course you can play with pinning it in different ways, and yeah,
definitely you could be draping it in the front if you pinned it up. Yep.
Monhegan, is very classic Nora. It has this cable-y texture in the front, but I think it's surprising. I was surprised to see that this is knit side to side on the sides. All the sleeves are knit sideways.
Yep,
correct?
So the structure's a little different. You work the cable pattern first, front and back, and then, so the little shoulder seam, and then you pick up along the edge of it and work outward to do the side panels and the sleeve. And there are some decreases down the outside of the sleeve. That's how you shape the sleeve. So, that gives it a little unexpected.
Right. And I think it's great how you've incorporated open work into the cable panel in the front, and also along the side you've got some ladders going down between the cables, just to kind of summarize this look.
Yep.
Berea is a kind of a wide scarf that you're doing, like a wrap.
Yep,
almost.
I've been wearing a lot of these scarves that are really wide, like 20 inches or more wide and long, and of course you can double it around twice. I spent a little time making this particular pattern stitch reversible, so front and back they look practically identical. There's purls and knits on either side, because obviously, your scarf is showing on both sides, so you want them both to look good. There's some double yarn overs, mostly double yarn over pattern stitch. It's used like three right side rows in a row, and then 2, and then 1, and so you get an an interesting variety that looks almost random, but it isn't.
This is the kind of thing that takes a little longer to make maybe than the average scarf, but it's almost a garment when you're done. You really have this wonderful piece that you can really wrap up in and do a lot of things with. Solado, this looks familiar, this motif. Is this from the
Right,
first
this
sweater?
is how when I talked about in the first sweater,
Schwan.
there was the snowflake kind of idea. In this case, I've used it in much smaller yarn, single yarn, and just in the very neckline there, it gives a different effect than it did in Schwan. And in this case, I also have a little bit of lace that goes up around the neckline and forms like the collar.
Love the waist shaping on this one. A gunkwit is a short-sleeved cardigan in linsey, and there's the trick about this one, right?
Well, not much of a trick, but there's a lot of extra fabric on the front. Is that how I want to describe
Right,
it?
yeah.
It's a triangle. Like each front is like a
Sort
big
of
triangle,
A-line, or-
and it's a little bit A-line at the same time. So you could really fold it over almost like surplice if you were to pin it. And then the little bit of detail up the front are twisted stitches, and it looks like it's open work, but when you work the twisted stitch, the kind where you like work into the back of the second stitch and then back of two together, or that would be the left twist version, that makes a little bit of open work. So it's just a little braid made with that, and I also used it down the back.
Great, and the sleeves are just kind of, you start with a purl row, or they're kind of just really left
Kind of
plain.
self-finishing, yeah. It doesn't curl that much, and it's just a nice, easy look to not have a lot of extra ribbing.
I love it. Everyone looks so peaceful and relaxed in these sweaters. Thank you so much for telling us about Volume 8, and that wraps up our season.
Happy knitting!
Yeah.